Jimbo said yesterday that at some point while you were in Tuscaloosa, he was going to beat your butt. That wasn't the word that he used, but did you have any response for that?
In golf?
I think he meant on the football field.
Well, I'm sure there'll come a day, you know.
Let's go! Right here in the middle of the damn field! Let's bring it down, Tigers on 3! Hell yeah! Because this is our house from now on!
Yes, sir!
Tigers on 3! 1, 2, 3, Tigers!
But I'm going to tell you this, we ain't done yet.
I got to ask you about the message on your shirt.
My favorite holiday of the year, I guess, and so just someone gave me a shirt and Merry Christmas. They spelled it wrong, so it was free.
Coach, it's a great day for you, huh?
That's it's better than average, I'll tell you that. We played LSU because, New England, Green Bay, and the Chiefs had somebody scheduled.
You know what we're going to do, though? We've got to quickly call the Hogs for the race back.
Big Tom! Turn that
The fact you're dressed as Darth Vader, do you feel like you were somewhat of a villain in this fight? I mean, you charged out on the field pretty hard.
I'm trying to get our players off the field, because I know we have a big game next week.
All I want to do is fucking eat! I want you to eat! I want you to eat! I want you to want this shit! Do you want it? Do you want it? Show me!
Oh, welcome in to the latest episode of that SEC podcast. I'm your host, Michael Breton. I go by SEC Mike on Twitter. And I'm joined as always by my cousin Shane, who goes by Big Orange Vols on Twitter. What are you up to, you big Tennessee homer?
Hey, buddy, what's going on?
Hey, doing good, brother. Just got done watching this SEC schedule release. Come to find out, Tennessee afraid to play Army. That's where things are at these days. How you doing, brother?
Mike, that's best news I heard today, man. I was a little worried about those Knights coming in and smoking us next year. So I think this is a smart move. Pay them, get them out of here. You get somebody else on the schedule. We need guaranteed wins right now, Mike. I think that's what they're going to need next year as well, and to boost some of that momentum. So this was a smart move. But there was some also a couple other interesting matchups that they released as well.
Yeah, so let me break those down here. I'll throw them up on the YouTube page if you're watching video. But week one, some marquee games here, some games I really like, Shane. How about this one? Mm-hmm. And, of course, this is Saturday, September 3rd, 2022. Cincinnati at Arkansas. Cincinnati's been pretty solid here.
Yeah.
Utah at Florida. That's an interesting game. Memphis at Mississippi State. Revenge game right there. Now, here are the two big ones. LSU versus Florida State in New Orleans. Of course, that'll be a Sunday game. And then Georgia, Oregon in Atlanta. Oh, how about that one?
Oh, baby, man. I'm telling you, these guys potentially could meet in the playoffs right now. So, yeah, I like this matchup. I don't like the neutral field, but at least the New Orleans game, I mean, that's going to be kind of like a home game. But, yeah, other than that, man, I really like that matchup.
And then here are the other week one games. The rest are cupcakes here, so I'll just go through them real quick. Utah State at Alabama. Miami, not the good Miami, but Miami of Ohio at Kentucky. Troy at LSU.
Wish list Miami.
Missouri at Middle Tennessee State. Georgia State at South Carolina. Ball State at Tennessee. Sam Houston State at Texas A&M. Elon, wherever the hell that is, at Vanderbilt. And then Mercer at Auburn. So that rounds out the week one schedule.
Well, I fell asleep there at the end, Mike. So I think we found our noon games.
Now things really start getting interesting here. Week two of the season, Shane. Man, SEC games already here. Kentucky at Florida, week two of the season. That'll be a good one. South Carolina at Arkansas. I like that.
Come on now.
And then, will this be a conference game? We'll have to wait and see. Alabama at Texas.
Sarkeesian, you just thought you were getting away from Nick Saban.
Tennessee at Pitt, a little revenge factor there.
Mm-hmm.
How about this one? Mississippi State at Arizona and Missouri.
Hey, let me ask you. I hate to rush through this, Mike, but over under Peyton Manning talk at the Pittsburgh game. That's going for 8.5. You taking the over or under there?
It depends on if that damn quarterback gets his 8th year of eligibility or not, And then last one here, Missouri at Kansas State, a former Big 12 matchup there. How about that?
Okay, all right. Hey, let me ask you, because, obviously the big game here, but a lot of people are going to want to talk about is Alabama and Texas. You and I, we've talked a lot here in the offseason about, these teams, Oklahoma and Texas, joining the SEC next year. So do you see that as a sign that things may not progress quicker than expected, or is this just, scheduled right now and subject to change?
Yeah, honestly, I wouldn't read too much into this, Shane, because this is standard procedure. This is how we do it every year in the SEC. 2 or 3 weeks into the season, we release the schedule for the next year. And I think they have to keep that going. We can't, as we all know by now, Texas and Oklahoma are currently contracted to play in the Big 12 until 2025. So, there's already potential litigation out there. I don't think the SEC can sit here and say, well, I know we're under, we have Texas and Oklahoma under contract coming in 2025. Let's hold off on the 2022 schedule for the, you know what I mean? Like, there's just so many issues you're going to run into. I would imagine the Big 12 will sue your pants off as soon as you announce you're waiting till December or whenever the heck they'll finally come to a decision there. So I think they have to keep it business as usual, but we could be sitting here doing this here in a couple months, blowing the whole thing up with Texas and Oklahoma officially coming to the SEC for next season. Again, I don't know that that's going to happen, but I certainly think they're doing everything they can, Texas and Oklahoma, that is, to get out of the Big 12 as soon as possible.
Yeah. I'm just curious, and when you add 2 more teams in the SEC, then you say, well, do we subtract some of these non-conference games? I don't know. There's just I'm just curious how that's all going to play out. Would you think we'll know something before the season's up, or do you think this is something we won't hear about until like December, January?
Yeah, I think it'll be the off season. We'll find out for sure.
Okay.
I think probably the drop dead date will probably be when they have the spring meetings, which is I'm trying to think. I think it's in May. I think by May we'll know for sure whether it's happening this year or if it's happening a little bit earlier.
Okay. All right, man.
Now, how about this real quick, Shane? I don't want to do a whole damn show on breaking down what's coming next year, but week 3, there really are some really cool games here. Penn State at Auburn. We just saw the other side of that last weekend. Ole Miss at Georgia Tech. I think that's an interesting game. How about this? Miami, the real Miami, at Texas A&M. And then we've got Mississippi State, LSU, Georgia, South Carolina. So week 3 of the schedule in the SEC is going to be pretty interesting, don't you think?
Yeah, especially when they get that turnover chain out there, Miami in the third quarter when they're down 48 points.
And then one other, I just want to mention this briefly because I think it's week 5 of the season, but it's so interesting. Arkansas at BYU. It's not often that we get a SEC team going out to BYU. I know Tennessee scheduled to do that in a couple years. I remember Mississippi State did it a couple years ago. So that's one to have on your radar as well. I mean, that's not one of those destination games where you're going to, the nightlife is not it is what you'd expect it is there in Provo, but it is one heck of a venue, and the setting out there is fantastic. So it might be worth the trip just for that,
Yeah, definitely, man. I mean, this is one of those opportunities. If you've ever wanted to get out that way, you can knock it off your bucket list.
But all right, Shane, hey, we've got some games to preview here. Did SEC West on the last episode. Really wanted to hold off to have the Tennessee Homer on the show to break down some of these SEC East matchups. So you ready to go around the league?
Let's do it.
Now let's go around the league.
What is 12 personnel? You know, I got to get up 2 tight ends and 2 wide receivers or 1. I'm just kidding. I know what 12 personnel is. So.
Worry about playing Alabama. I can't figure out whether or not the Big Ten and Pac-12 are going to yo-yo around and play football with us or not. I mean, they're playing great. Love it. Love the game. Awesome game. It's unbelievable for our country. It's great for our universities. It's great for our towns when we play. It's great for our young men. I personally think it's the greatest game in the world. So if they elect to play, great. If they don't, that's on them. I got enough crap to worry about with preparing for Alabama and figuring stuff out at Mizzou. So
the team is in great spirits. I know there was a lot of doom and gloom. I saw and heard a lot about how the hopes of our season hinged on the results of an MRI, and frankly, that's bullcrap. We've got a hell of a football team, and whether one guy's in or out, we got 117 other guys that are ready to step up no matter who's out. We got Kevin.
All right, I'm not a big opening statement guy, and plus you guys are going to ask whatever you want to know anyway. So let's just go ahead and get started. Is there any questions?
Young man from Destrehan, Louisiana. Hold on a second. Hey, guys! Hey! I'm having a press conference, okay? Thank you. Great young man.
All right, Shane, got to start here in Gainesville, where the Florida Gators, they obviously lost against Alabama, but kind of feels like a win in a lot of respects. Yeah. I mean, so much respect gained for not only the Florida Gators, but I think some more respect for Emory Jones. And, most everybody knows what a great coach Dan Mullen is. I think, yet again, he proved that last Saturday going head-to-head with Nick Saban, and I certainly don't think that Nick Saban got the better of that battle. I think Dan Mullen did. So, I think the most fascinating stat that I keep hearing it everywhere, Shane, but Florida led the nation in passing last season. I know we're not towards the end of the season yet, but Florida currently leads the country in rushing. And I think that's just a credit to what an outstanding coach Dan Mullen is and his ability in one simple offseason to kind of flip the script and play to the strengths of his players. And that's going to be the challenge this weekend for Tennessee coming down there. How do you stop this Florida rushing attack? And I think it's compounded by the fact that we know Josh Heupel and company love to go, as fast as they possibly can, but they're going to get in some real trouble, Shane, if they cannot move the ball and you leave your defense out to dry, because this is literally the worst opponent in the country that you could leave your defense out there on. So how do you think Tennessee matches up with Florida's rushing attack?
Well, Mike, first off, you can't spell upset without the letters UT, Mike. Oh, no, I'm just kidding. Realistically here, Mike, I obviously very, very worried about this game. It's a primetime game, so it's not like we can just sneak up on them at noon. This is a game they will be ready to play. This is I'm not worried. I don't think any type of trap game wouldn't surprise me, maybe if a little sluggish out of the gate. But you're right, Mike. The best way for Tennessee to compete with Florida is to try to force this to some sort of a shootout. And you have to keep them honest, and we're going to have to connect on some of these deep balls. And if Tennessee showed me anything, there's a little improvement with Hooker last week, a couple of long shots, but still that downfield presence wasn't there. And if you can't keep them honest, then they're just going to load up in that 10, 15-yard range, and we're going to be 3 and out. And next thing you know, Florida Gators are going to be running all over our asses, and that's the last thing we want. like you said, we don't want the Gators offense on the field the entire game because that would wear your defense down in a heart. And these guys, if you look at Dan's teams from years past, man, this is why he keeps coming up in NFL jobs, because he has that NFL mind. He looks at his players. Who's my best players? Okay, let's get them the ball. So we went fun and gun last year. Well, now it's the running game, and you saw that against Alabama. So, yeah, very worried about this week, Mike.
Surprised, Shane, that you're so quick to dismiss, though, the fact that there could be a letdown factor here, because last week was such a huge game. I mean, how could you avoid that topic in Gainesville? And, we'll get to Dan Mullen's comments here in just a moment, but he's out here pleading with the fans to show up. He says he'll sing and dance. He'll do whatever they request of him to get them to come in full force, because that home field is such an advantage. Yet, I don't think he's out here saying that. And I'm not sitting here calling out Florida, because attendance, in recent years is down across the board. So I don't know. I think, I'm not saying the Gators are going to let down. They certainly have a lot of seniors on this team and obviously some outstanding players, but I don't know. I think there's a chance that after laying it all on the line against Alabama and coming up just short, I think there's a chance they're overlooking Tennessee. Hell, Dan Mullen spoke for 30 minutes. Once again, maybe this seems like an annual thing we're noting here, but he only got one Tennessee question. So, I mean, I don't know. You think it's totally overblown that Florida's going to overlook Tennessee?
Well, Mike, I mean, I'm a Tennessee fan, all right? This ain't my first Gator game. It's been a tough go watching them. I mean, you think the closest we got was, obviously a few years back we had the big upset there in Neyland. That was awesome. You think about Dobbs in some of the matches that he had, he kept it close. Just pure athleticism. Mm-hmm. But Mike, I'm also a realist. I don't want to put the cart in front of the horse here, but we got a rebuild going on in Knoxville, and I know a lot of Vol fans don't want to hear that, but the Gators are there. You saw it. They went toe-to-toe with Alabama last week. That's something that right now I am not convinced that we have the roster to do. So, Mike, I get it. The whole letdown, the whole trap game feel, whatever. But the fact of the matter is, think about it. This is what I'm worried about, Mike. I'm worried about AR coming out there on the field here in the second quarter and just blowing us up, because if you think about some of the Florida-Tennessee games years past, it always seems like that backup quarterback comes in at the right time, and then we make him look like a hero and a Heisman candidate. So, I've been hurt. I've been hurt by this game a lot. So, and it's not that I don't want to root for my boys, because I will. I'll root for them all the way to the end. But I gotta be realistic, Mike. This is going to be the toughest matchup that we may face this year.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, let's kick it over to what Dan Mullen had to say here leading up to the week on asking the fans to show up and on his ability to adapt to his personnel. And he does give an update here on Anthony Richardson's status after missing the Alabama game.
We don't get to see the Swamp like that very often, probably not often enough for you. What can you do? What do you think, other than winning, what can you do to make it like that, every other week or every time out?
I don't know. I put on my marketing hat real quick, and I just hope, it is fun. I certainly, obviously the end of the game didn't come out the way we want to, but the environment of being in a college football stadium, the environment of being, to that type of environment, that excitement to our student body. If you're a college student, I don't know how much that's got to be just fun to even be in that environment, that energy, that excitement that everybody just feels that while they were there. I think that's a huge thing, and I think there's passionate Gator fans out there, and I think they need to understand that they are critical in the success of this team. They have an important role, by showing up and creating that energy, that environment, that excitement, like they've done for the first two games. You go back game one, it was a great environment. Obviously, last Saturday was a crazy environment, and we keep that going. I think it does nothing but help. Helps the current team, helps the program long term, and I certainly hope everybody enjoys being in there and feeling that energy and excitement and being a part of that game day environment.
Don't take this as an indictment on last year's running or this year's passing, but have you ever been part of this kind of dramatic turnaround? I mean, you led the nation in passing last year. You're number 2 in the nation in running this year. I mean, how do you explain that, other than patting yourself on the back?
No, it really isn't that. It is, I think it just shows within what we've done, and fortunately, having kind of built this offense a long, long time ago and being there from the beginning, being there through all the different changes of it throughout the years. When you understand the offense inside now, the key to it, learning through the years, is making sure that we had the flexibility to match our players and our personnel. I don't think I've learned, and I probably through many years and many mistakes, you learn to sit there and say, hey, okay, we have this great system, but the worst thing I can ever say as a coach is I have a great system, but it doesn't fit the players that we have. So I guess it won't work. Ours is to always make sure it has enough adaptability. Okay, there we go. Adaptability within the system to make sure it fits whatever our personnel is at a given time. And, so I bet we have. If you probably look back through the years, there's sways back and forth. And it's still early in the year. I think statistics sometimes sway one way or the other a little bit earlier and balance out a little bit more as the year goes on. But it's just us doing what our guys do well.
And then one more basic question on Tennessee. What jumps out to you when you watch the first couple games under Heupel?
You know what, they're defensively, they're certainly playing hard. I watch the guys play hard. I mean, they're very very physical up front, play really fast, get off the ball on the defensive front. Guys running the ball, the energy they're playing with defensively. You look at 2 of the games, they've held opponents under 6 points. And guys flying around, and then offensively they do a good job getting the ball to playmakers in space, and of spreading you out, playing with tempo, and and spreading the ball around. A lot of different guys with catches on the team. They're going to spread it to a lot of different people, and so it's going to be a big challenge for us to make sure that we're playing at an extremely high level.
Hey, Dan, is there any more testing that Anthony's going to have to go through before he's ready to play? I know you said you were feeling a little more positive.
Absolutely, yeah. We're going to test everything out again this week. Through the week, be a very similar approach. We'll probably do a little bit more practice. He practiced all week, and that's what gets into it. Like, he was cleared to play in the game, but there's a big difference between I'm cleared to play in the game, I'm not going to be 100%, but I can't make the injury worse, and I'm cleared to play in the game, I'm not 100%, and this 1 to 2 week injury could turn into a 6 week injury. And those are always big differences. And so, for us, we'll see how he responds this week, and hopefully with the type of, when you're looking at a hamstring issue. We did an MRI on Friday. It came back much better than we thought it would be, but, not still at 100%. So we wanted to be pretty precautious to, in meeting with the medical staff, that there was a pretty solid feeling if he didn't play in the game and we're ahead of where we were, that he would be 100% by this Saturday.
All right, Shane, so let's kick it over to the other side of this one, Tennessee. And, I think I'm so surprised to see so many Tennessee fans. It's not everybody, and maybe I'm just seeing some negativity and I'm reading too much into it, but last time I checked, Shane, not that the competition's been great, but Tennessee scored 128 points so far this season. I think that's 3rd or 4th best in the SEC, and I think the defense has been a lot better than most people anticipated. I saw this tweet from John Reed. I'll throw it up here on the screen, but he said, what is it that Josh Heupel has to avoid in his first Florida game? And I thought that was a terrific question. So I'll ask it to you, Shane. What is something, even Tennessee homer like yourself, I don't. Hell, we just said you sound pretty depressed just talking about this game. So I know you're not, guaranteeing a Tennessee win by any means, but I don't think it would be like the biggest upset in the world if it did happen. But taking that into consideration, what is it that you'll be looking for in this game, and what do you want to see from a Josh Heupel coach team in his first matchup against Florida?
Well, what I want to see from Heupel, for starters, is this is his first year. This is a lot of kids on this program never played against Florida. They don't know the history like you and me. I think that's the biggest thing. It's like you go in thinking you're going to lose. Well, you're going to lose. Right. And I think one thing Tennessee's shown us, even though they lost that game to Pitt, man, they had freaking heart, dude, and they were scrappy and they fought to the very end. Did they make mistakes? Absolutely, they made a lot of mistakes, and if they didn't make half those mistakes, we probably would have had a victory there. And so I just think going into this Florida game, what we got to do is have fun, man. I know that sounds stupid, but don't get conservative. If you're going to air it out, I'd love the fact. Listen, I was heartbroken when Milton threw it a mile past our open receivers. You know what I'm saying? I was just like, oh my God, but it was there. And that's what you got to have. And who knows? Sometimes the stars align and everything just goes your way. If they come out there and Florida does come out flat and they have a script of run the ball, play defense, but Tennessee scoring on every other drive just because they're catching some of them long balls or just some good play calling, I think that's the key, Mike, is don't get conservative because it's a tougher opponent than you've faced this year. Come out slinging, man. And if you can't find that chemistry, don't be afraid to throw in another quarterback and find somebody that can, because we looked at this at like Garantano last few years. Something was going on in practice, and Pruitt was saying this is our guy. But then when it got to the lights on, the noise, he just couldn't make it happen. Some people play better than they do practicing. So that's what I want to see. If we're going to start rotating some quarterbacks, let's do it earlier. And if Hooker's not getting the job done, put somebody else in there. And if we're getting our asses smoked, that's okay. Keep airing it out. Keep trying to work. There's no better practice than going against a team like the Florida Gators. Yeah, you may not win, but you may learn something. And who knows, you may catch them just on the right day. So miracles happen. Look last week, man. Kentucky was going toe-to-toe with UTC. I mean, think about that, Mike. They said that they're ranked 2 or second from the bottom in their own conference. Mm-hmm. Those two teams that shouldn't have been a ball game, but it was. So I think that's what Tennessee has to do, is just forget the records, forget all that shit that I said here at the start of this show. Go out there, have some fun. You probably think that you don't belong, whatever, man. Just go out there and sling the rock, and next thing you know, I mean, if you can get in some sort of shootout, that's something the Florida Gators haven't had to do yet.
Yeah, and I think the most important thing you hit on there, Shane, it's almost flipping the script from last week with Florida. Mm-hmm. Tennessee has got to believe they can win this football game. And, we said hardly anyone thinks that they can compete and beat Alabama. Florida is basically Tennessee's Alabama. I know they still got to play Alabama, but this is a game Tennessee fans, I think year after year, I mean, at this point, they just are, they face the fact they're going to lose. And if they keep it close, they'll probably get embarrassed by the end. You know what I mean? So, and I think that trickles down to the coaches and the players. And this is a new era of Tennessee, a lot of fresh faces on this team, a lot of transfers. So this will be their first Florida game. And you just got to hope that, they don't have that mentality. They believe they can win, and maybe they can have a clean slate, so to speak, win this Florida Gator series. You know what?
Well, and you think about the staff that we just had. Pruitt played conservative going into games like this. He didn't want to lose big. That's what it felt like. it didn't feel like we went out there to win. It just felt like we went out there to not lose by as many as Vegas is predicting. So I don't want my coach to do that, man. There's a reason we brought you up here. We want to be different. We want to be – I mean, look at teams like Ole Miss right now scoring – I mean, just scoring at will, 3-minute drives. They didn't do it overnight, but it slowly became that, and now they're just a machine. So that's what we've got to create, and we've got to create that environment. And like you said, you don't get out there doing that by running – first, every day, I mean, think about that. Every time Pruitt got out there, it was let's just run it off the right guard here and see what happens. No, you just wasted a play. Air that damn thing out and throw it 40 yards down the field. It may connect. Guess what, man? That takes the crowd noise out of it immediately.
Coach, if Joe is healthy, is he your starter, or do you have a quarterback competition this week?
I never speak in hypotheticals. Got a little bit of work last week. We'll find out where he is, in particular, Tuesday, Wednesday here, and see where we're at that point as far as whether he'll be able to play or not.
Josh, you've talked about your offense. Maybe you wanted to play faster, to execute crisper. How many moving parts are there to that? How many things are there that you're looking at saying, I want that to be better so this thing can go faster?
We want, when we're playing with tempo, we want to be more efficient. And that can be ball mechanics, it can be eyes, it can be alignment, assignment. All of those things can help us play quicker when we're playing within our tempo. Even when we're not playing in our tempo, the execution can be higher. You guys have seen opportunities that present themselves, in particular in the pass game, vertical pass game, that we have to start hitting. We're capable of it. Seen us do it. It's time to go execute that on the field.
Josh, on the missed vertical routes the other day, the passing game, you said you want your guys to grow out of that. Have you been in a situation in the past where guys struggled to complete those balls early on and then improved on it later in the year?
As you get further in the number of times that you've played, the more looks that you've seen as you continue to grow. Absolutely have seen that transpire in my career.
All right, Shane, so let's kick it down to the other matchup here in the SEC East here. Let's kick it down to Lexington first, where Kentucky, Shane, coming off an ugly win, but as Mark Stoops says, you never apologize for a win, at least not in the SEC. Barely squeaking by UT Chattanooga. Now the competition gets a lot tougher, and this will be the first road game for the Kentucky Wildcats. So the biggest thing for me is we need to figure out if last game against Chattanooga was a fluke, if maybe our guys were reading their press clippings. Everybody thinks, Kentucky is now an SEC East contender, which they certainly didn't look like it last week. But because they won, they still got everything in front of them. And going back and watching that UTC game, I mean, plays are there to be made. I mean, they're getting to the quarterback. They're just not bringing them down. There's miscues here, interception here that can't happen, a fumble there that can't happen. I think Kentucky only ran like 8 or 9 plays, something crazy like that in portions of the second half there. So, we got to find out, and I think the biggest key for me, which was incredibly troubling, was there was no push on this offensive line that we tout up year-round against UTC. Now you're going up against the South Carolina Gamecock team where, we just found out against Georgia, they're far from where they want to be all around the roster, but they have the defensive line that you need to compete in the SEC. I mean, this is the biggest matchup maybe of the weekend here when you're just talking one position group against another. Kentucky's offensive line, South Carolina's defensive line. Who wins that battle may in fact win this game. And then like I said, it's all compounded by the fact that this is going to be a night game at South Carolina. If they find a way to jump out to a lead early, it could be a long night for Kentucky here. What are your thoughts on this matchup?
Yeah, I think nobody has had a tougher practice than that offensive line there in Lexington, man. I know you can't apologize for a win, but I guarantee those big boys were ready to apologize at the end of practice because their coach was lighting into their ass. that they've been reading them clippings, man. You and me how many times have we talked about how great this offensive line is? And I'm watching this game, and I'm seeing, like you said, no push. They should have just owned that team. It wasn't even close. You look at the size comparison, it's not even close. But when you got new offensive line, you've got to work on a chemistry, man. You need to know what your buddy to the right and the left are going to do, and not have to think about it. You just know they're going to do their job, because it's a game is just moments. I mean, think about that. I can't remember which coach talked about that, but he says, hey, think about this for a second. There's 11 players on that field. If one guy drops the ball and has a mistake, it affects the entire game. Think about that. Every play you go, all you need, you may only have 4 or 5 mistakes, but if everybody on that team had 4 or 5 mistakes, you had a terrible ball game. So you can't afford to do that, and I think that's what they need to work on and come out. They got to come out firing, Mike. And I'd like to see the attitude. We need somebody to step up on the front of that line and take leadership, because that needs to be a point of emphasis, because there's no reason they couldn't do it against UTC, and there's no reason they shouldn't be able to do it against South Carolina either, even though they do got a good defensive front. But I'm telling you, if they can't get it against Chattanooga, they're going to struggle this week, or when they go to South Carolina.
Yeah, and I know it's we say it's a new Kentucky. This may be the best team Mark Stoops ever had. Look at his road record in the SEC play, Shane. Overall, 8-25. And you may say, well, hell, he was building the thing up. I get that. So we don't totally hold that against him. But even the last 2 years, 1-7 on the road in the SEC. Again, Kentucky says it's a new era. They're ready to compete in the East. All due respect to South Carolina, you can't lose to South Carolina if you're trying to win the SEC East. So this is, an opportunity for Mark Stoops and company to prove that last week was a fluke, that, their recent history in the SEC was a fluke. But I guarantee it, William Bryce is not going to make it easy on them. They're going to be all over their ass. So I cannot wait for that. And let's kick it over to Mark Stoops, who talks about getting his team ready for that crowd. Maybe the best comments of the week so far here in the SEC, when asked about Liam Cohen and asked about Will Muschamp, if he had, how big of an impact he had last week, knowing that South Carolina roster.
Mark, I'm not a coach, so it always intrigues me how tough coaches are on themselves after a game like that. Liam, he said he sucked. That was his words, not mine. He said he didn't plan well, he didn't call a good game, he got greedy, he didn't put people in proper positions. How are we kind of supposed to interpret that? The honeymoon's not over, is it?
Well, Liam's been a little bit hard on himself, that way. You got to realize you can't give you guys all those nuggets. So, because I don't mean this in any way to undermine what y'all do, because I appreciate you, but it's like you can't do that, because when you want to use it against them, you will. True or not true? Right? So, so and so you can't, you got to learn. Believe me, I bite my tongue. We want to be honest. You could tell I try to be honest with you, with the way I talk, with what we say, with, frustration, being honest, without giving you those nuggets. So he'll learn that, because sooner or later, you guys are going to pull those words out and run them over with a bus.
Season last year, it's been almost 2 years since you guys have played in front of a packed house in a road game. Do you do anything different this week to prepare?
I do. I do. It's make these guys aware of it, because we do have 2 classes and a significant amount of guys that haven't been in this environment, and we're going to address it. I'm not going to worry, overdo it, but yeah, they have to understand. And I could go to the game. I need to pull it out. Matter of fact, I want to pull it out, but two times ago we go down there. First play of the game, bam, place erupts, goes nuts. We throw an interception in first possession, bam, it goes nuts. Settle in, we take full control the rest of the whole first half, but you got to take those shots sometimes in these environments. It gets, and they do, they just need to understand that, hey, if we get hit on the chin, you gotta stand back up and play the next play. So we talk about it, just make them aware, but I don't need to overdo it.
Whether Will Muschamp's presence on Georgia's staff gave Georgia an advantage. Does Eric Wofford's knowledge of the South Carolina personnel get you in kind of a game?
That's funny. You think anything had to do with it, those beasts that Georgia has on their team? Just a little. No, I mean, very little. This is a different team, different mentality, so, I mean, Will, I love Will and have a great respect for Will and friends with Will, but, I mean, Georgia's got pretty good players.
All right, Shane. So Mark Stoops wasn't having that. And, I thought that'd be a perfect transition here to South Carolina because, yeah, you got worked last weekend there against Georgia, but I guarantee it, the Gamecocks will not be the last team that gets worked by the Georgia Bulldogs this season, and particularly Jordan Davis and company. I mean, it's going to be a long damn day for anybody that faces that unit. And, Shane Beamer says this week the team has responded in practice. They look great. The energy is still there. So, this is going to be we hear that all the time. And sometimes it shows up on Saturday, sometimes it doesn't. So, the fact that new era here in South Carolina, I think that is kind of the biggest question is how does this team respond to their first true adversity after starting the season 2-0? And one thing that has brought a lot of praise, a lot of happiness from Gamecock Nation, Shane, Luke Doty is going to start for the first time this season for the South Carolina Gamecocks. So you're going to get, I think, a lot more of the playbook and just obviously the mobility from the quarterback position. So I would wager that South Carolina's got a lot of their offensive playbook that they've not even really been able to showcase. And maybe they wanted to do it against Georgia, but of course, you can't do it when those, like as Mark Stoops says, them beasts are on you. You certainly can't use the playbook when you're getting blown up. So, thoughts on that matchup?
Yeah, and you can't use these running backs either. I think that's the biggest one, Mike. For so many times I'm watching and the box is just loaded because that's what South Carolina's going to do. But now you got Luke out there that can air it out, make this team a little bit, I want to say three-dimensional. And the reason I'm saying that is because let's not forget, man, Luke's got some legs, and he can get exciting outside the pocket. And that's something that they've not had the ability to do. So that's just the script. They just don't have the film on it. They can watch a little bit of last year's film, but they've never seen it with this offense. So there's just the uncertainty of Kentucky coming in. They really don't know what South Carolina is going to bring to the table. And I think that's one of the biggest advantages that they're going to have this week is the element of surprise. And then you factor the loud ass fan base, man. You kidding? When they start doing Sandstorm, don't think this place ain't going to be jumping, and Kentucky's not had to deal with that.
Yeah, and speaking of that crowd noise, Shade, a little clip here from Drew Franklin. He's shared this video of just what's going on up there at Kentucky with the practice of get the sandstorm and all that. And then we'll kick it over to Shane Beamer's comments on the other side.
And, it's their first away game for them, for sure. And we need to make that a great environment on Saturday night. So, Gamecock Nation, listen to me. We need you there early. We need Gamecock Walk to be even bigger and louder than what it was last time. We need the cockpit to be louder and more disruptive than it's ever been. We need an environment Saturday night that will be a true home field advantage for us and a true 12th man out there. Loud and boisterous. If you're wearing a mask, great. You ought to be yelling so loud that the sound from your voice tears a hole in the mask. I don't even know if that's humanly possible, but let's sure as heck try. You can be an advantage for us. We're all in this thing together, and we will need you on Saturday night. Get there early. We've got a fantastic group of recruits that are coming, and we need you to go get this done.
Shane, after 3 games, when you've looked at some of the offensive line struggles, is it a scheme complication thing? Is it calls at the line from the center of the quarterback? Just is there, a couple of problems that you guys have identified and can correct?
Yeah, we got to be better. It starts with us as coaches. We got to coach better. Saturday night was not good in a lot of ways, us included as coaches. There certainly that place was rocking on Saturday night. Like, we need our place to be rocking on Saturday night. And we had certainly some miscommunication. You guys watched the video. I mean, we had a play where we got 2 guys blocking a run and we had 3 guys blocking a pass, and that can't happen. I mean, that's not good football, and that starts with us as coaches, and that's being able to communicate at the line of scrimmage and the quarterbacks being louder, getting plays in on time. So it all starts with us as coaches, me as the head coach. And then, frankly, I mean, there was some busts, without a doubt, particularly in pass protection, where we flat out turned some guys free that we should have been blocking, without a doubt, that cost us. They were critical plays. And then, like I said earlier, sometimes it's just going to be it's a one-on-one battle, and there's a winner and a loser, and sometimes we won and sometimes we lost. And when we lost, it's very glaring. So I think it's a combination of things, Dave, but it starts with us as coaches and making sure that, we don't beat ourselves and give Georgia a lot of credit, but we certainly did not execute at a high level offensively, not just the offensive line, but offensively on Saturday night, and we got to be more efficient.
Shane, have the guys responded this week the way you wanted to see? What's the attitude been like, and how do you feel about their response?
I really feel really good right now. Now, you hope that equates to Saturday night, but everyone was disappointed after the game. Sunday was, it was a quiet bus ride back on Saturday night. I mean, I was up watching tape on my iPad. I'm sure everybody else was sleeping, but it was a quiet bus ride back. And Sunday was, we came in here and, we're brutally honest with the guys and what went well, what didn't go well. But I think they saw on tape that, give Georgia a lot of credit. They're a phenomenal team. But, we had every opportunity to make that thing 14-10 or 14-13 in the second quarter. And then obviously didn't handle the end of the first half, beginning of the second half well, starting with me. And it kind of got out of hand. But proud of the guys, and they showed it. They saw how physical they played, and we've got to always be able to do that. Practice on Sunday night was good, and then this morning, it was fantastic. We the tempo, the energy, the sense of urgency that we had out there, the focus, honestly was one of our better Tuesday practices that we've had since we started the season against Eastern Illinois. Now, we got to get better on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, but it gives me hope that our guys are in the right place mentally and understand that we got a chance to be a good football team, but we got to get a whole lot better this week.
Assuming everything's okay with Luke and his foot, is he the guy moving forward at quarterback?
Assuming everything is good with Luke, he will be our starting quarterback on Saturday night.
And, all right, Shane. So, Shane Beamer fired up for this one, and here's his first opportunity to get his first opportunity to get an SEC win, get it at home, and certainly, if you're looking at the betting odds, it would be an upset, but not a major one. It's only, I think, 5-point spread right now, so certainly possible that South Carolina gets a win, but I guarantee you they cannot do it without those fans, and I think that's why Shane Beamer made such a point there to call attention to those amazing South Carolina fans. It's at night. They're going to be good and liquored up. This is what it's all about. You know what?
This is what it's all about, man. This is something that we've not got to experience, but now we're starting to see it a little bit more as we get into these. You think about last week watching that Alabama-Florida game, man. It was just so nice to hear the fans just giving them hell. And I think that's what you got. You had Bryce out there. You had trouble, it's new time. I mean, Kentucky, same situation, man. Some of these guys have not heard the noise. And if these fans go out there and they rain down on them, I mean, this game's about opportunities and momentum. And the crowd is the one that can help the most by creating just a chaotic atmosphere.
Mm-hmm. Well, Shane, that's all I got, buddy, on this episode. So, do you got anything before we hop off the line?
No, Mike. That's pretty much it. Like I said, I'm excited about this weekend. No news is good news. I think that's the key too. It seems like, knock on wood, it's been a pretty good, healthy year so far, and I hope that continues. But man, I don't know, Mike. It just feels like upset is in the air, and I don't know if it's the Florida Gators. I don't know. It could be somebody else, but I don't know. I think we get a big old surprise this weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. And before, obviously, we still got a couple more shows to wrap up the week, but already lined up an Arkansas guest, just confirmed a Texas A&M guest. So the big game here in the SEC this weekend, we'll have both of the sides covered before the weekend's up. And that's, I'm excited about all these games, but that one in particular, Arkansas, Texas A&M, so much on the line. The winner probably going to be top 10. Hell, Texas A&M's already in the top 10. But if Arkansas finds a way to end that 9-year streak, I say put them in the top 10. If Texas A&M wins it, keep them in there, raise them in the polls. You know what? So just a tremendous showdown there in Arlington, and I'm looking forward to those interviews.
Hell yeah, Mike. Let me ask you one last thing before we get off here. This weekend, going to be a big weekend, of course, but is College Game Day. I've missed that. Are they going to be at this A&M game, or they pick some other?
No, I can't remember the one
conference?
they picked, but I think it's some Big Ten, who gives a damn type game.
I got you. All right. Well, they messed up there. I think that A&M Arkansas game is going to be electric. But that's all I got, man.
Yeah, and even the SEC network version, they're going to South Carolina for the Kentucky game. So still a lot on the line for that one as well. But interesting that they missed an opportunity to cover this Arkansas Texas A&M game, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well.
But all right, Shay, that's all I got on this episode. Catch you on the next one.
All right. See you guys. Go Vols. Upset.